Have your legs been feeling heavier lately? Do your feet get tired faster than they used to, even after a normal day? Maybe your ankles feel tight by evening. Maybe your calves feel stiff, dull, or weak for no clear reason. And maybe you have started wondering whether this is just another part of getting older. But what if one simple drink could help support better circulation and make your legs and feet feel lighter, more comfortable, and more energized? That is exactly why today's topic matters so much. Because when circulation begins to slow down, the signs usually do not arrive all at once. It often starts quietly. Cold feet, mild swelling around the ankles, tingling, tight calves, that dragging sensation in the legs after sitting too long. Then, little by little, walking feels less comfortable, standing feels more tiring, and even ordinary daily tasks begin to take more out of you than they used to. What makes this frustrating is that many seniors assume it is something they simply have to live with. They accept the heaviness, they accept the fatigue, they accept the idea that their lower body is just not going to feel the same again. But in many cases, the body is more responsive than people think when it gets the right kind of support. Not extreme support, not expensive support, just smart support. And one of the most overlooked ways to do that is by using foods and drinks that help the body maintain healthier blood flow, especially in the lower body, where circulation problems tend to feel most noticeable. If you are new here, welcome to Senior Health Circle, where we talk about simple, practical ways to support mobility, circulation, strength, and healthy aging. And today, we're focusing on one drink that has been getting attention for a very good reason. It may help support blood flow in the legs and feet in a way that is simple, realistic, and easy to fit into an ordinary routine. But before I reveal what it is, there is something important to understand. Your legs and feet are often the first place circulation changes show up because they have the hardest job. Blood has to travel all the way down from the heart into the lower body and then make its way back up again. That process depends on several things working together: your heart, your blood vessels, your hydration, and even your muscles. And this is where many people miss an important detail. The calf muscles do much more than help you walk. They also help move blood back upward through the legs. That means when movement becomes less frequent, or blood vessels become less flexible, or hydration is not where it should be, the lower body often feels it first. That is why so many older adults notice cold feet, swollen ankles, tired calves, or heavy legs before anything else. The signs may seem small in the beginning, but they start changing how you move. You may walk less, stand less, go out less, and once that begins, the cycle often gets worse because less movement tends to make the lower body feel even more sluggish. So now the real question becomes, what can you do to support this naturally? One answer may be much simpler than most people expect. The drink we're talking about today is a beet and citrus circulation drink. Now, I know what some people are thinking. Beet? Really? Yes, really. And the reason has nothing to do with trends or hype. It has to do with how beet works in the body. Beets contain naturally occurring dietary nitrates. Once those compounds enter the body, they can help support the production of nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is important because it helps blood vessels relax and widen. When blood vessels can relax more effectively, blood can move more easily through the body. That does not mean one drink is going to fix everything. It does not mean this replaces medical care. But it does mean that beet can be a very smart, food-based way to support healthier circulation. and that matters even more in the legs and feet, where poor blood flow often feels the most obvious. Some people notice that their feet feel warmer. Others say their legs feel less heavy by the end of the day. Some notice less of that dull, dragging sensation after sitting. The changes are not always dramatic at first, but they can become more noticeable when this becomes part of a consistent routine. Now, here is where the citrus becomes important. Because beet may be the star of the drink, but citrus is what makes it easier to use consistently. Lemon or orange brightens the flavor, softens the earthy taste, and makes the drink feel fresher and lighter. That matters because the healthiest drink in the world does not help much if you only try it once and never want it again. And that is exactly where many people go wrong with circulation support drinks. They hear about something healthy, try a version that tastes unpleasant, load it with sugar to fix the flavor, and end up turning a helpful idea into something far less effective. That is why balance matters. A simple version of this drink can start with one small cooked beet or a modest amount of unsweetened beet juice. Add the juice of half a lemon or one small orange. Add water. If you want, you can include a little fresh ginger for extra brightness. Blend if needed, or stir and serve cold. Simple, clean, practical. But there is one mistake that ruins it for many people, and it happens almost immediately. They turn it into a sugar drink. They add too much fruit juice, too much sweetener, or they buy a bottled version filled with added sugar and unnecessary ingredients. And when that happens, the original purpose starts getting lost. Instead of making a drink designed to support circulation, they create something that may leave them feeling more sluggish, less stable in their energy, and no better by the end of the day. The best version is not the sweetest one, it is the most balanced one. And there is another detail that matters just as much, but almost no one talks about it. A drink alone is rarely the whole answer. That is where expectations can get people into trouble. Someone drinks something healthy once, sits for the next 2 hours, and then decides it did nothing. But your legs depend on more than ingredients. They depend on movement. The calf muscles need to contract. The body needs fluid. The blood vessels need support. In other words, the drink matters. But what you do around the drink matters too. And once you understand that, this whole topic starts to make more sense. Because heavy legs and tired feet are not just about comfort. They affect confidence. They affect mobility. They affect independence. When the lower body starts feeling sluggish, people often become more cautious without even realizing it. They shorten walks. They avoid stairs. They stay seated longer. Their world slowly gets smaller. That is why even a simple habit like this can matter more than it seems. Not because it promises something unrealistic, but because it may help support the body in a way that encourages better movement, better comfort, and more confidence in the legs and feet. And the next detail is where this gets even more useful, because the drink itself is only one part of the equation. The real difference often comes from how you use it, what you pair it with, and the common daily habits that either help circulation or quietly work against it. That is where most people get this wrong. They focus only on the drink itself, as if one healthy glass is supposed to do all the work. But circulation does not improve because of one ingredient alone. It improves when the body gets support from more than one direction at the same time. And when it comes to heavy legs, tired feet, and that sluggish feeling in the lower body, the drink works best when it becomes part of a smarter routine. The first thing that makes this drink more effective is movement. This is one of the biggest differences between people who say they noticed a change and people who say they felt nothing at all. Some drink it and then sit for hours. Others drink it and give the body a reason to move blood where it needs to go. That difference matters. Your calf muscles act like pumps. Every time they contract, they help push blood back upward from the lower legs. When you sit too long, that pumping action slows down. The feet may start to feel colder. The ankles may feel tighter. The legs may feel heavier and less responsive. That is why even a few minutes of gentle movement after this drink can make such a difference. It does not need to be intense. A short walk inside the house is enough. Slow marching in place can help. A few heel raises while holding a chair or kitchen counter can work. Even ankle circles and gentle foot flexes are better than doing nothing. The goal is simple. Remind the body that circulation depends on motion. And once people understand that, something clicks. They stop treating the drink like magic and start treating it like support. That shift matters because it leads to the second thing that makes this work better: hydration across the rest of the day. Many seniors are not drinking as much fluid as their body needs. Sometimes that happens because they do not feel thirsty. Sometimes they are trying to avoid extra trips to the bathroom. Sometimes they simply forget. But even mild dehydration can make the body work harder. And when that happens, the lower body often feels it. The legs can feel duller. The feet can feel more uncomfortable. The whole system can feel slower. That is one reason this drink can be so useful. It encourages fluid intake in a more purposeful way. But one glass is not enough to carry the entire day. The better strategy is to let the drink start the process, then keep supporting the body with steady hydration afterward. Not all at once, not by forcing huge amounts of water, just a more consistent pattern through the day. And there is another reason this matters. A lot of people who complain about poor circulation are not dealing with one single dramatic problem. They are dealing with a cluster of smaller daily patterns. They move less. They drink less water. They sit too long. They eat foods that leave them feeling puffy, sluggish, and heavy. Then they assume their legs are the problem, when often the routine is part of the problem too. That brings us to the third thing that makes this drink far more effective: cutting back on what works against circulation. This is where people often want a shortcut. They want to add one healthy thing without changing the habits that are dragging everything else down. But the truth is, you cannot expect the lower body to feel lighter if the rest of the day is built around things that increase heaviness. Very salty processed foods can make some people feel more swollen. Sugary snacks and drinks can leave the body feeling unstable and drained. Heavy meals can make people feel sluggish for hours. Long stretches of sitting can make the lower body feel even more stuck. And when these things pile up, even a helpful drink may feel underwhelming. But once those pressure points start easing up, the difference can become much more noticeable. Now, here is something else that helps this drink work better, and most people overlook it because it sounds too simple. Taste matters. If the drink is unpleasant, you will not keep using it. And if you do not keep using it, you lose the one thing that makes most healthy habits effective: consistency. That is why adding a little fresh ginger can be so helpful. It brightens the drink, cuts the earthy taste of the beet, and makes the whole thing feel cleaner and more refreshing. A little extra lemon can help for the same reason, not to make it sweet, just to make it easier to enjoy. Because the goal is not to create a dessert. The goal is to create a drink you will actually use often enough to matter. Now, some people wonder whether it is better to use cooked beet, raw beet, or bottled beet juice. In real life, The best option is usually the one that keeps the habit simple. A small cooked beet works well. Unsweetened beet juice can also work well if it is clean and not loaded with added sugar. What matters most is not chasing the perfect version. It is avoiding the versions that defeat the purpose. And that leads to an important question. Who needs to be more careful with this? Because even healthy habits should match the person using them. If you have diabetes or blood sugar concerns, keep the drink simple and balanced. Do not overload it with fruit juice, honey, or sweeteners. If you have kidney issues, a history of kidney stones, or you are on a medically restricted diet, it makes sense to check with your healthcare professional before making it a daily habit. The same is true if you take medication for blood pressure or circulation. This is a food-based support, not a one-size-fits-all solution. And there is another reason to pay attention. Not every uncomfortable leg symptom comes from the same cause. Sometimes the problem is circulation. Sometimes it is nerve-related. Sometimes it is joint-related. Sometimes it is something more serious that should not be brushed aside. If swelling is only on one side, if there are color changes, wounds that heal slowly, or pain that keeps getting worse, that is not something to guess about. But for many people, the issue is not one dramatic crisis. It is that everyday pattern of heavy legs, tired feet, and lower body fatigue that keeps stealing comfort and confidence little by little. That is where this routine becomes powerful. Not because it is extreme, but because it is realistic. A modest glass of a beet and citrus drink. A few minutes of movement. Better hydration through the day. Less of what makes the legs feel swollen and sluggish. These are small actions, but they start pushing the body in the right direction. And once the body starts moving in the right direction, the next mistake becomes much easier to spot. It is the one that shows up later in the day, when the legs begin feeling heavier again, and most people unknowingly make it worse. That is the mistake many people never connect to their symptoms. By the end of the day, their legs feel heavier, their ankles feel tighter, and their feet feel more tired than they did earlier. So they sit down and stay still for hours. It feels natural. It feels deserved. But that long stretch of inactivity is often exactly what makes the lower body feel even worse. This is especially common in the evening. After dinner, many people settle into a chair, turn on the television, and barely move for the rest of the night. And while rest absolutely matters, long periods of stillness can leave the lower legs feeling more sluggish, more stiff, and more uncomfortable. The calf muscles stop helping blood move upward. The ankles begin to tighten. The feet may cool down. And when it is finally time to stand up, the legs can feel heavy and uncooperative. That is why one of the simplest habits for better leg comfort is not dramatic at all. It is just interrupting long sitting periods before they quietly build into that heavy, dragging feeling. Stand up for a moment. Walk to the kitchen. March in place for a minute. Do a few slow heel raises while holding onto something stable. Rotate your ankles. Stretch the calves lightly. None of this has to look impressive. It just has to keep the lower body from going completely inactive for too long. And once that becomes part of the rhythm of the day, the drink starts making even more sense, because now you are no longer relying on one healthy choice to do everything. You are stacking support. Better hydration, better blood vessel support, better movement, fewer long stretches of stillness. And that combination is often what changes how the legs and feet feel over time. Now let's talk about timing, because this matters more than most people realize. For most seniors, this beet and citrus drink makes the most sense earlier in the day, usually in the morning or early afternoon. That is when it can support the hours when you are more likely to be active, walking, doing chores, or moving around the house. It also makes it much easier to pair the drink with a short burst of movement, which is one of the smartest ways to get more out of it. Late evening is usually not the ideal moment. By then, many people are winding down, sitting more, and preparing for bed. That means they lose one of the biggest advantages of the drink, which is using it as a cue to move. And that cue can be powerful, because one of the best ways to make a healthy habit stick is to connect it to something simple and repeatable. In this case, the most effective pairing may be this. Drink one modest glass, then take a short walk. Not a hard walk, not a long walk. Just enough movement to wake up the legs. That little pattern can change the whole meaning of the drink. Instead of being just another healthy item you consume, it becomes the beginning of a circulation support routine. It tells the body that this is not just about what you drank. It is about what you do next. And this is where expectations need to stay realistic. Some people hear about a drink like this and expect one glass to completely transform how they feel in a single day. But the body usually does not work that way. What is more realistic is noticing smaller changes first. Feet that feel a little warmer, ankles that feel less tight, legs that do not seem quite as dull by evening, a little more comfort while walking, a little less hesitation when standing up. Those changes may sound small, but they matter, because small improvements in comfort often lead to bigger improvements in confidence. And once confidence improves, people tend to move more. They take the walk. They stay on their feet longer. They trust their legs more. That creates a better cycle, one where movement supports circulation, and circulation supports movement. That is especially important after 60, because so many of the changes people notice in the body happen gradually. Heavy legs do not usually appear overnight. Tired feet do not become a daily problem all at once. It is often a slow buildup, and that means support usually works the same way. Small choices, repeated consistently, gradually shifting the body in a better direction. That is why this drink is worth paying attention to. Not because it is a miracle, not because it replaces medical care, but because it is simple enough to use, practical enough to repeat, and supportive enough to fit into a smarter approach to circulation. So here is the simplest way to put it all together. Use a balanced beet and citrus drink earlier in the day. Keep it moderate and not overloaded with sugar. If you enjoy ginger, add a little for freshness and flavor. Follow it with light movement, even if it is only a few minutes. Keep hydrating through the day. Try not to let long sitting periods take over the evening. And pay attention to what happens in your feet, ankles, and calves when this becomes a routine instead of a random experiment. Because that is when many people begin to notice the difference, not all at once, but enough to feel encouraged, enough to feel that the lower body is a little lighter, a little warmer, a little more cooperative, enough to start walking with a bit more confidence, enough to stop feeling like leg heaviness is just something they have to accept without trying anything at all. And sometimes that is where meaningful change begins, with one simple daily habit that helps the body work a little better than it did yesterday. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Senior Health Circle for more practical strategies to support healthy circulation, stronger legs, better mobility, and more confident aging. And if you know someone who struggles with heavy legs or tired feet, share this video with them. It could be the simple idea that helps them start feeling better again.